hottest paranormal life show on YouTube, Into the Fringe, where we discuss lost civilizations, UFOs, cryptids, unsolved mysteries, megalithic structures, extraterrestrials, interdimensional portals, time skips, and more. Don't change that channel, because now you are leaving the mainstream and entering into the fringe. Well, greetings, Cardinal Sin Nation. It is I, Cardinal Sin, and welcome to another episode of Into the Fringe. And boy, do we have a great show for you tonight. And I wanted to go ahead and introduce the book and the author. The book is UFOs The Real Story. And it looks at the bigger picture with all of its complexities and is interlaced with many of the author's own sightings throughout his life. Employed in the medical field all of his career, before retirement, Paul Ascough was a qualified nurse, occupational health nurse, and paramedic, spending 13 years with both the regular and territorial British Army around the world, gaining perspectives in people and places that would stand him in good stead for his ideas and experiences that contribute to this amazing work. And I'm reading this right off the press release, so there are no value judgments from me here. A wealth of information for the enthusiast or beginner to get their teeth into. Paul Ascough covers a multitude of subjects from UFO abductions to the paranormal, how they can overlap, and this will leave the reader in no doubt that truly strange encounters occur and how they can intrude into our daily lives wherever you are. Paul Ascough was a member of the British UFO Research Association, BUFORA, for many years, and uses over 50 years of experience in ufology to bring a better understanding to these fascinating subjects, showing that the truth really is out there. Welcome, Paul Ascough, to Into the Fringe.
Hello, and thank you for having me.
It's very good to have you. Thanks for being here. I know it's late where you are, so I really appreciate your working with us so that we can have our live audience. And I understand that today we're giving away an autographed copy of the book. Is that correct?
I have it right here.
Okay. Now, that's the revised edition, right?
Yeah.
Can you show it to us one more time? Let me make you big here so we can see it.
There you go.
Awesome.
The revised edition. It's actually due out for publication on the 1st of June this year. I just have an author's copy.
A galley.
Just to let me know. But I will sign that and post that to whoever you wish.
Great. Well, at the end of the show, we will have a spinner wheel and instructions for everyone in the chat to get themselves signed up if they would like to be. I encourage everyone to do so, including the mods. And let's see who we have here with us. We have Phantom Boomer, hail. And Darius Munchausen is here, hail. Canadian Spider-Man is here. We saw him a little earlier before we started the show. Thanks for being here, Canadian Spider-Man. Ari says, hello, sinners. And my good friend Skugly Yotun is here. Skull. Jeff Fletcher's in the house. Good to see you. Radioactive is here, of course. And Philip Blair is here. Good to see you. Nicholas Horton is in the house. And, of course, the Bodhisattva Kid. And that looks like enough of those for right now. So, Paul, I wanted to let you know that I've kind of jumped around a little bit as far as the images go. So, like, when I share the screen, kind of look like that. That's the old book cover, right?
Yeah, that's good.
And then as we go, I'm just going to kind of ask you to jump around with me because I'm not really sure I got everything in the right order.
That's no
But
problem.
there's definitely a lot to get through, so let's get right to it.
Sure.
Can you tell us about the process for writing UFOs The Real Story and what motivated you to write it?
Sure. As you can see from the front cover of the book, I was 11 years old, going back a lot of years, back in 1968, and I wasn't interested in the subject in the slightest. No interest, no previous experience or anything. And we lived on the edge of a small village, very rural, out in the countryside. You literally walked from the front gate of our home and out into fields. So the last duty of the day as a young child was myself and my brother used to take our dogs for a walk, and the neighbour's dog had a disabled war veteran next door with one mum, and he had 2 dogs, so we used to take his dogs for a walk too. So you'd take the dogs, put them away, say good night to mum and dad, and go to bed. That was the routine. So we'd take the dogs, come back, and my father was actually in the front garden because he had roses, and we hated them. But anyway, so we went, took the dogs, put them away, went into the front garden to say good night to Dad. And as we're in there, he sat us down, and it was just getting dusk. It was September 1968, and we were sat there. And from our home, looking due east, the terrain was quite flat. And from Mum's bedroom window, you could see maybe 8 to 10 miles across the flat lands in front of us. So as we're looking, my father was pointing out constellations. It was dusk. I mean, you must think this is 1968, so there wasn't the background light and the light pollution that we get so much nowadays. There wasn't the air traffic. There was no police helicopters or ambulance helicopters. There was nothing like that. So as we're looking at the sky, we were looking due east. To the north, the sky was completely covered in cloud, and to the south, it was completely clear. And it ended with this rather abrupt, sharp bank of cloud. So my father's pointing at the sky and saying, "What's this constellation? What's that?" He wasn't an astronomer or anything. He just had an interest, and we actually had a telescope, but he liked to involve the kids. And so we're all 3 of us looking at the sky. And as we're looking at the sky, 2 UFOs came out of this bank of cloud really fast and then just stopped dead. They were, if you can imagine a V formation with one missing, there was one slightly in front of the other and to one side. And they came out and stopped. Now, immediately that they stopped, there were this perfectly...
Paul, could I interrupt you just for a sec? Your audio is kind of crackly. Is there anything you can do to improve your audio?
It may be me that's just knocked it there. We'll try that, see what that's like.
It's still very crackly. Are you sure it's plugged all the way in? Have you gone down to the settings and made sure that it's picking up the correct microphone?
Yeah, sure.
Because you've got a lot to say, and we're getting reports from the chat that your audio is not so great.
Okay, is that any better?
No.
Oh, well, heck.
You see at the bottom of the screen where it says settings?
Yep, sure.
So click on that, then go to audio, and make sure your mic is the one that you want it to be. And make sure that you can see the green dots while you're speaking. Device is not connected. He will be back. She's out of sync, and everyone around her notice something is wrong. Working on the audio problem, but it could be better.
Ow.
Yes.
Oh, that's lovely. Very good.
Please,
Okay.
as you were.
As we were. Well, my apologies for that, boys and girls.
No worries.
As we're looking at the sky, these two UFOs came out of the bank of cloud and stopped immediately. Very boom, they were still. And they were perfectly spherical, very pearly white. And as they stopped, I got a voice quite clearly in my head that said, oops, we hadn't meant to have been seen. And then, after literally just a few seconds, they stayed the same position relative to each other, but moved very quickly again, no acceleration, moving very fast, going straight away from us, going due east. And as they were going down this bank of cloud, you could actually see the light from them shining off the surface of the cloud.
Okay, I'm going to try and share some images, and I want you to
Okay.
let me know which one is the correct one.
Oh, it's
So I've got a lot of stuff here. Is that the one?
no. All I've got is the book there.
Oh, okay. Let me make sure we're.
Well, I'll just carry on talking. As they were actually moving away from us, there was the smallest little teardrop shape appeared at the back of them. And it was just, for me then, the three of us were just sat there, mouths agape, like it was, what the heck was that? Because one thing that I always say to people that have witnessed these things is, or people that ask me, you will know when you see it because they're so odd. Now, that was one that I saw in 2019 in September, and it was going into the wind, and it was like you would call a football, we would call a rugby ball, but it was vertical, and the top part of it seemed to be shrouded in like a, I don't know, like an atmosphere around it, and it moved into the wind very, very high, because initially when you see something like that, I thought it was be a helium balloon. But then the two things were, A, it was very high because it was behind cloud. B, it was moving into the wind, against the wind. It should have been going in the opposite direction. And then also it moved in a straight line. It was like it was on a heading, if you like. And I had time to shout my wife, and we watched it probably in sight only for maybe a minute and a half, 2 minutes. But I did manage to get a couple of fuzzy photographs, but that's one of them. That was the close-up of the thing. Yeah, there you go. There it is in the distance. So that was September 19, that one. Yeah. And that was sort of going in an easterly direction. We live south of the big city of Leeds, about 5 miles, 4 or 5 miles south. Now that one, oh no, you're moving your cursor there. Yeah. But again, no noise, no.
I didn't notice that it had two smaller ones there.
Yeah.
That's very interesting. And then there's this guy here.
Yep. Yep.
Which I'm not sure if anybody can see.
Yeah, I can see that. Is that on the same exposure there?
Yep.
Yep. Now you see, years later, let me just get the date right. Almost 2 years later, September 21, there was, we got another one where I got the whole, we live at the top of a small cul-de-sac where there's about maybe 10 or 12 houses. And I got half of the street out looking at one. And we had a larger object with these smaller ones around it.
Mm-hmm.
So we do, I don't know why, but we do seem to have quite a lot of activity around us.
And you live where?
We live right in the centre of England, in Leeds.
Leeds.
Yeah.
So at the time, did you see this little black character here?
No. Didn't notice that at all. And again, there's a lot of.
Did you notice it before you put it in the book?
No.
So this is the first time you've seen it.
Yes.
Interesting.
Hey,
The reason that I laugh is that there's so many people that can be standing side by side. One sees a UFO, then the guy next to him doesn't. So
yeah,
perception is a weird thing.
that happens all the time.
Yep.
Yeah.
So you were just covering the story of this white one, right?
Yeah. So where we lived, I mean, obviously we were quite near a large city, so you do get a lot of background light. But I have had quite a few daytime sightings.
Mm-hmm.
That was one of them. So
And let's go ahead and click that one out. And this is just a
that's the
close
close.
up, right?
Yeah. Now this is a good one. Now this was the one 2 years later.
Oh, by the way, you're starting to crackle. Your audio is starting to crackle again.
Oh, well, I haven't
Whatever
changed.
it was you did, maybe you should do that again.
Oh, if I dare tell you that I didn't do anything, I just unplugged my mic. So
Well, plug it in and plug it back out, I guess.
yeah, I'll try that again. But this one was in September 21. Can you hear me okay there?
Yeah, you're still pretty crackly though.
Oh, I'm sorry. Well, we'll just take it right out of there and see how it goes. So we were looking due east, and this was
Again, I would direct you down to the bottom of the screen where it says settings.
yeah, sure.
And then go to audio.
Yeah.
And make sure that you can see the little green dots on the microphone you have selected. And make sure you have the right microphone selected.
Okay. Yep, I can see that. I can see the green dots there. That's fine. They're moving up the scale. Is that right?
Well,
Okay.
you're still sounding kind of crackly. Can you tick the box that says echo cancellation?
Echo cancel. There we go. Right.
All right. Now, say again.
We'll see.
That sounds better, but I need to hear it like a full sentence.
Okay, then I've clipped my mic back on, and we'll just
take perfect. It from there. Great.
That good?
Yep.
Right.
Back on the road.
Right. Cardinal saying there are a few in this, and if you can see there, the camera wouldn't focus on it, and this is a problem that investigators continually have. People taking pictures, and if I just sort of sidestep a little bit and just cover something. The electromagnetic spectrum, which is one of the things which I covered in the book, is responsible for everything really. Our visible spectrum that we see normally now and the acoustic spectrum that we hear is less than 1/10 of 1% of the normal electromagnetic spectrum that we know of. And that's given out by everything. The computer we sat in front of, the chair we sat on, the room we're in, even the building we're in, all have a magnetic field, and everything bounces off everything else, and everything has some resonance with everything else. So the problem that you get is, I believe, that UFOs use dark energy and dark matter, which dark energy and dark matter, as a lot of people with better brains than I, these cosmologists are now saying, make up by far the largest part of the energy within the universe and matter within the universe.
There's been a lot of controversy about that.
Oh, yeah.
And I think the latest that I've heard anyway is that they misunderstood gravity all this time.
Anyway, one of the things that I say is that this would perfectly explain how, I'm going to use ET as a coverall phrase.
Sure.
How ET is able to move, how they do, how we see and experience what we do. Because if you imagine everything that has within our normal electromagnetic spectrum, we cannot control. You get the within ordinary matter, you get the radio waves, which are the lower energy and longer radio waves at the bottom end. Then you come up through the infrared, past the visible light that we know of, and then ultraviolet and X-rays, and then gamma rays at the far end, where you're getting higher energy and shorter waves. Now, these cosmologists and these other people are saying there are other layers to this with the dark energy and dark matter that make up the majority of the universe. Now, if this is true, it would make perfect sense because of the way that we see and experience UFOs and the paranormal. And if you think about it like that, if ET, who quite logically could be 1,000, could be 10,000 years in front of us in technology, not only are they aware of our energy and our electromagnetic spectrum, they're aware of the dark energy and dark matter as well.
Mm-hmm.
So because they're able to understand that, they're able to manipulate that, they're able to use that. And
So
that
what you're saying is they're a type 2 or a type 3 civilization.
Yeah. So because of that, that is why we experience what we do. And that is one of the things with the photographs that people do manage to get. And it's you see the jokes where, you know, hit the blurry camera thing and so that people can't take a clear picture.
Yeah, one of the things that we talked about before on a different episode was that the reason that the photographs of Bigfoot come out blurry is because Bigfoot is blurry in reality.
Yeah. But it could just be, if you think about it logically, it could just be that they're on a different frequency. Now, one of the things that I think is with, I'm going to say UFOs,
Mm-hmm.
is
I much prefer that to UAP, by the way.
Oh, absolutely, yeah. I mean, I say in the book, go to your nearest shopping mall and walk in and ask the first 100 people through the door, what's a UFO, and you will get the right answer.
Yeah.
Ask them what a UAP is, and it'll be, I have no idea, you know. But anyway, to carry on with the conversation, the thing with the UFOs is if they can travel between the frequencies and travel between that this is why we don't always see them. This is why we can't photograph of them. We can't get photograph or video of them as clear as we do. Even going back, it's 2 years almost now, when they released the videos of the Tic Tac and Gimbal and Go Fast. And you can see there, now they've got, what they did was, in essence, they released 3 videos in infrared. They told us that they were seen in the normal visible spectrum by the pilots of the Super Hornets. They also told us that they were recorded and they could see them on the radar underneath on the carrier fleets. So you'd got them in 3 different spectrums, if you like. Now, one of the things they also said in that report was they had 140 some of these reports, but 80 of them, 80, they had them on all 3. But people had, you know, qualified observers had seen them. They'd been recorded in infrared on gun cameras, and they'd been seen on the radar underneath. So that means there's another 77 of these examples that they're not showing us. So what's on the other 77 is what I'd like to know.
Paul, your audio is acting up again. If there's anything that you can do to try that, maybe go back to the settings, make sure that everything is all taken care of there.
Well, I'm sorry, guys. I don't know what's happening with it. I'm on audio, and it all seems to be working. On my end here, it all seems to be working perfectly.
Yeah, but we're getting really scratchy sound from you. It's like you're cutting in and out really fast.
I don't know why. I've got... Yep. Well, all I can say is I'll try... Is that any better? I don't know.
No. Again, I would recommend that you go down to where it says settings.
Settings, yeah.
And go to audio. And then your microphone, make sure that's the one that you're using.
Yeah, that's what I was doing with the with that one. So anyway, I'll carry on talking. Audio, iPad microphone, yeah, and that looks to be working perfect. I've turned the echo cancellation off, but
Yes.
and it says automatically adjust. I don't know if you're getting me any better at the moment.
Not so far.
I think it could be. I mean, all I can suggest is it may be a Wi-Fi thing where it's just not
Oh,
picking it.
yeah. If you're using Wi-Fi and you're not plugged directly into the Ethernet, that could be why.
Yeah, I think it could be that. I've got quite a good signal, so it should be. And
Yeah, but over here it's really scratchy.
Okay, I'm sorry. I don't think I can do much about it, guys, I'm afraid. So, shall we just carry on? And
Did you say that you unchecked echo cancellation?
Yes.
Try checking it again.
Okay, just a moment. I'll do that.
It's live entertainment on YouTube, my friends. This is how it works.
Right, okay,
Device is not connected. He shall return. And by the way, while we're waiting, please subscribe if you enjoy this content and you are not subscribed to the Cardinal Sin channel. Please do. It costs nothing and it really helps. And I'm looking for the wrong thing. There we go. Here's Paul.
Right.
All right.
Okay, guys.
Now you're 5x5.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, the sighting there was. We were watching. This was September in 21, and there were. You can imagine we'd been in lockdown. There were very few aircraft because where we are in central England, a lot of flights go over from Europe, coming over the pond to you guys. So we see aircraft going over all the time. And what happened was there were two going over, I'm not saying side by side, but pretty close. And what happened was I saw this very bright pinpoint of light behind them. So it was like, whoa, that shouldn't be there. It was the middle of the evening. It was bright blue skies, middle of summer. So it was like, quick, come here, get the camera. Let's have a look at this. Get the binoculars. And we watched, and it moved very, very slowly. Probably at about 70 degrees, and then it started to move slowly towards us, moving in a westerly direction. And then it stopped, and then again really slowly started moving in a northerly direction. That was the direction the actual light itself was moving. Now, to look at, it was just a brilliant pinpoint white light. But when you looked at it through the binoculars, it was like a donut shape on its edge, like a circle, if you like a tube, in a tube.
Mm-hmm.
Now, we had it in sight for over 40 minutes. We had 8 adults and 5 children that saw it. And on one bit where I was, there were 2 of us laid, we had time to get out the reclining chairs, and I've got some huge binoculars, 25x70s.
Mm-hmm.
And looking at it through those, you could see the donut on its side, but there were also very small pinpoints of light around it as well, moving, flickering and moving really fast.
Is this the one?
No, that's another one. That was one that was.
Yeah, let me find the one you're talking about.
Oh, okay.
If I can.
Oh,
That's
keep
not
going.
it.
Yep, that's it. There you go.
All right.
Now, that was what somebody else had put on the internet, and I used that to illustrate it because that's exactly how it appeared, except
with the 3 white dots.
Yeah, but mine was brilliant white instead of that grey colour. So
I see. So they were all white.
Yeah.
Okay.
But But also you got that, you can see how there's a little like after image. When you're looking at something really bright and you get the after image on your retina, it
Sure.
was like you were getting that in these iridescent colours behind it. So they were really, I mean, it was a fascinating thing. And the thing was, it was moving so slowly. I went to get my telescope to try and get the telescope so that we could see it real close up. And as I was setting the telescope up, it suddenly zoomed off in a northerly direction and it wasn't seen again. But throughout, no sound, nothing on the aircraft, on my radar, not just.
How close would you say the sighting was?
Well, that's the other thing. How can you tell? You don't know.
Well, if it's on
Initially,
radar, it can be triangulated.
well, yeah, but it's all you've got is the aircraft app, flight radars, things like that.
Gotcha.
So
Okay.
you can't tell how large it is. I mean, it did look a very long way off, but
Can you just give me an educated guess?
I would have said maybe 100, 150 feet.
Away?
Yeah. No,
And,
much further than that. I would have said miles away even.
oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah. So, do you want to put some of the other pictures up there, Cardinal?
I will. First, I just wanted to thank Radioactive for his super chat. And he asks, how far was Paul from the black object in question, and what is the estimate for altitude? So we
Yeah,
already mentioned that it
yeah,
was white.
yeah. Very difficult to get a height or anything accurate because there was nothing to compare it with.
Do you
Uh,
know uh, how high the plane was?
the planes were flying. It's about 35,000 feet.
Mm-hmm.
And it appeared to be behind them.
Uh-huh.
The, the small contrail that lasted a little while after the planes had gone, that remained stationary, and the contrails moved past with the wind,
Mm-hmm.
and it was behind that.
So this could have been really big,
Oh yeah,
like mothership
yeah,
type
huge.
thing.
It could,
Okay.
but again, you can't say one way or the other.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay, I am going to try and skip around a bit
Okay.
and share the screen here. Now, this is a little hard to see. I want to make sure that this is the first one, or this is Sunday,
Yeah, that
16
was it.
October.
Yeah. Now that's the one I've just been telling you about.
Uh-huh.
Uh, so that was what I did a little write up of it just to. There you go.
No apparent rotation, no flashing lights or strobes, and no noise at all. And as this photograph shows, was this a daylight sighting?
Yeah, sure.
So this is a daylight disc.
Yeah.
And this is, again, what you were talking about, the donut or torus-shaped object.
Yep, that's correct.
About 30 degrees due east from your position.
Yep.
Yeah, those digital cameras are really difficult to, get a good quality photo. Although I understand some of the new iPhones and such are using the Starlight scope, the infrared filter, that you can get those.
You may get some better pictures with that, but it's getting that zoom from the distance when you've nothing to focus on. And I do think that people tend to have that problem if they're trying to get something in focus when a digital camera will not focus on that.
And I apologize, Paul, your audio is choppy again. Can you do whatever you did before to
Right. I
make it a
can
little
just
better?
try. We'll keep switching and we'll keep trying.
Okay.
So iPad microphone, there we go. We're back on that one. So the echo cancellation's back on that
You're
one.
Yeah, you're still choppy.
Am I? Okay, I'll put that back on there and try that.
There you go.
Okay. Oh,
Talk
it's
to
not.
me.
Oh, well, I
I
was
think
just
you're
trying
sounding much better.
Is that much better?
Yes.
Oh, that's good. Okay. We'll leave it at that then. I won't move anything.
And as long as I've interrupted you, Radioactive in the chat has a question for you. Has Nick Pope reached out to Paul to discuss his sightings?
No. I have discussed it with other people, other investigators, the Kinsella twins, Philip Mantle.
To be honest, I'm not sure that Nick Pope is really on the up and up anymore. I think
I
that when he worked for the MOD as their UFO desk, that he was, you know, legitimate and genuine. But I think that the longer it's been since he was in the MOD, the Ministry of Defense, the more, he's sort of been relegated to UFO expert. You know what I mean?
yeah. I think he's just riding the wave at the moment. Can't we say?
Agreed. And I
Yeah.
think I asked you about this before. This is not
Oh
the
yeah.
one we're talking about.
Right. The first sighting I had was in the small rural village. My sister still lives there, and this was something that came up. If you go back where you did the last time, it came up on Google Earth, and I sent it, which was right outside my sister's home. There was nothing on the frame previous, and nothing on the frame afterward.
Oh, wow.
And when Jason Gleaves did an analysis for me, and there you go, and he said it does appear to be a solid object that's reflecting the sun, but that's all you can say about it. Now that is actually, as the crow flies, about half a mile from where, certainly no more than a mile from where I had the very first UFO sighting of the two UFOs. So whether
So
that's a little
I
where they
guess the
go.
obvious question would be, is this what started your interest in UFOs, or you were obviously interested in UFOs for a long time before this, right?
Oh yeah, before this one, yeah.
Yeah.
This was fairly recent, obviously being on Google Street View.
But you've been involved with Bufora and all that kind of
Yep.
stuff. Was this the ones in general that we're talking about, not necessarily this exact photo, but that and some of the ones we've seen? Is this group or batch of sightings your first UFO experience?
Well, my first was when I was 11 years old, and I have had quite a few since then.
Can
When I
you
was in
tell us about those?
yeah, sure. What I've tried to do is, as we've said in the book, put different sightings in just as a way of illustrating points and things in the book, and it gives people an interest, and so that they're not just reading somebody's opinion, they're reading accounts of things that have happened and sightings too, which people do want to know, and they are different. And the one that stands out, I was in the army and on a huge training area which we use down the south of England, Salisbury Plain training area, and we were doing a nighttime exercise through the night, and one appeared in the sky. Now, again, you're trained observers. We're moving around. It's a bit like orienteering at night. There were different points we had to get to. So you know where you are. You know what direction this thing was in.
So is that to say, Paul, that all the people that were on bivouac or maneuvers with you, whatever you want to call it, saw this thing too?
Yeah, well, I was a section leader. There was 4 of us on this thing with just small groups going out doing the at night, and it was an exercise and a test, if you like, of our skills. So we were going out from point A to B to C to D and then back to the finish line. So as we're doing this, obviously you know what direction it's in. We've got compasses, and and we could get bearings off it, and we could see this thing, because it was quite low down, probably only 15-20 degrees above the horizon. So initially, is somebody else doing an exercise that we don't know about? Because when you're doing night exercises, the people that are organise it, everybody talks to each other so that you know. And it was just a light in the sky that was flashing white, red and green, but it
Right.
remained stationary. And again, no apparent noise, no apparent rotation, no anything. It was just a light in the sky. And then after, literally, this thing was just in the sky for maybe an hour and a half to 2 hours. And then as we got near to the finish, after our last checkpoint, we came up out of a gully, and it should have been straight in front of us. And immediately, all of us, everybody went, whoa, it's not there. And why isn't it there? And it had just gone, just completely disappeared.
Now, does it seem to you like it zoomed off at a high rate of speed, or that it just wasn't there anymore?
Well, we didn't see it go, so you 1 minute it was there, and then the next time I looked, it wasn't.
And I apologize, your mic is getting crackly again.
Right? I'll keep playing.
If it's not one thing, it's another, right?
Yep. So we'll try that one. How's that one?
You're still coming through scratchy.
Scratchy, right? No problem. Audio. There we go. Right, we'll try it without that.
Better.
There, that's better. That's without the echo on it. So we'll keep
There you
going.
go.
Okay. Yeah. So I think that different people will, as you said, will see things differently, because everything's on a different frequency. Even us as people are on different frequencies and at different developing parts in our lives, and how good or how, dare I say, psychic we are.
Right.
And that is why people do see things differently, even looking at the same thing.
Absolutely. I'm going to move on here. Like I said, these are kind of random. I'm not sure which of these posts is the first one, or where I should start with that. This one says Sunday, 16th October.
Okay.
Same here. Same here. So the ones that you tweeted about were just that one. You tweeted about it all on the same day. Is that right?
Yeah.
Okay.
What I've done is when I get any sightings, and I've just been looking through, and I'm getting like one good one a year, really.
Right.
Not that I'm counting, but that's how it's working out. And what I try and do is put it on. I have a Facebook page called It's The Real Story, but it's an I at the end instead of a Y. And what I try and do is anything of interest I put onto that page, with any follow-ups or any anything that other people get. It's like one that I got that was last year in 2022, a Westbury sighting, and somebody else saw something the day previous to me, and I found that interesting that two people quite separately and quite unrelated and didn't know until after the event saw something very similar in the same area, within a few days of each other.
All right. I wanted to ask you about this one here.
Yeah. That's the analysis of the one on Google. That's on Google Earth.
And who did the analysis?
Jason Gleaves.
Oh, great. Yeah. A friend of the show. He's been on many times.
Yeah, there you go. So
And
yeah.
What did he determine?
And he said it was a solid object that was reflecting the sun. That's like the negative of it. So, but yeah, he's a good guy, is Jason.
I love Jason. He's awesome.
Yeah. So that was just one that was. It was actually brought to my attention by, it was my sister's grandson. And he was staying with his grandma, and it was like, Grandma, look what I found. So she immediately rang me and said, whoa, have you seen this, Paul? And it was like, oh, that's good. So, but people do tend to do that. You get friends of friends that'll say, I've seen this, or do you know about this one? And so that makes it interesting as well.
And as an investigator and a researcher, they know what you do, and so they probably come to you about that, right?
Yeah, that's sure. There's when I was working, I mean, I have retired now, but at
Mm-hmm.
work, the people that come to and they'd say, you need to go and ask Paul about that one. You know,
Right.
but the problem that you tend to get is for people that don't know is they don't get enough detail. They don't know what direction they were looking in,
Right.
or they don't know what time it was, or you know, and it is difficult. They don't have a flight radar app or satellites or anything. They don't know anything that on that side of things. So
Yeah.
when you find out, and it might be 2, 3, even weeks later, you can't get that information. You
Mm-hmm.
don't know which direction the wind's blowing in, that sort of thing.
That reminds me, I was going to ask you if you reported your sighting.
Never. Uh, I've managed to, from where my location here now,
Mm-hmm.
I've managed to photograph 6 incidents, 6 sightings of UFOs, from the standard, shall I say, typical hockey puck shape,
Mm-hmm.
to the football that was that shape, and then other ones that were spheres, if you like, orbs.
Sure.
And again, it's difficult when you've no frame of reference. When there's nothing on flight radar, you've nothing that you can compare to. So you don't know how far away it is. So you don't know how big it is. You just know. And I mean, obviously, from my point of view, it's an advantage getting your neighbours and getting other people to see it. So that, as in that last one that we showed, there were maybe 12 or 13 people saw that. The another one that I
Oh,
saw.
you're starting to be scratchy again.
Oh, am I? Sorry. Well, I can keep going back. Another one which I saw,
Still scratchy.
yep, with my neighbours. There we go. I'll try that one.
Still scratchy.
Yeah, just a minute. Settings.
And while we are waiting,
Right.
I just wanted to remind folks about the great merch you can get at gillstore.org. We'll take a quick look.
Take it slow, one step at a time. I need to know the reason and the rhyme. You say my heart of gold has turned to rust. Your love can't grow on a broken trust. Well, who the hell are you? Who do you think you are? The girl who turned her back and left me with that scar. But it's
So that is some of the really cool swag available at gillstore.org. And while I'm thinking about it, I will create a banner. And I do apologize for our technical difficulties. And no matter what Stream Elements says, it is gilstore.org, not gilstore.com. That wacky StreamYard bot. I'm not sure what the deal is. And there's Canadian Spider-Man talking it up. And thanks to Darius Munchausen for the link. Prices are low right now because we have a lot of new merchandise, and it's kind of a introductory offer price, but they will be moving up. Everything's going up. So hail to Rui Goncalves. Greetings. Feel free to shoot in some questions for Paul if you like, for when he comes back. We'll see if he is ready here. And there he is. Can you hear me?
Uh-oh.
Sounds
gone.
So go back to settings. Let's see if I can find.
Right. Can you hear
Can
me?
you hear me now?
Yep, I can hear you now. That's good.
Okay, great.
Right. I would just move slightly to move nearer my router to see if that helps any. So
If you could center yourself
Okay.
in the yeah, there you go. That's better. So I'm not sure if I got an answer to my question. You said that you didn't report your sightings.
No, I never
Why?
have.
Why not?
I think it's because to me, there's no point in reporting sightings to anybody that's not going to do anything with it. And the problem that we have is, unless you're reporting it to a UFO group like MUFON or Bufora, then it doesn't get investigated for the person who's experienced it to get any positive feedback and get anything out of it.
Well, I was thinking more for other people that might have seen some of the same sightings. And if you were to, say, call up Peter Davenport at the UFO Reporting Center, New Fork, and give him all of these sightings, it might, there might be a Venn diagram with some other people that saw it too.
Yeah, I know exactly what you mean. Yeah. Now, previously, so it's much better now with the media that we have, and everybody can contact everybody else at a second's notice. But before that, for me, it was a waste of time reporting it to anybody, because you never personally got the feedback back. Even when you were with, I would say, MUFON and Bufora, it's difficult to give any eyewitnesses, especially people who haven't seen anything before, anything positive out of it, because you're trying to investigate it from a scientific point of view, and there's no disclosure for them. And by disclosure, I mean there's nothing you can tell them positive that will say one way or the other it's a good thing or a bad thing, or
Sure.
We had,
Um,
go on, sorry.
I was just going to ask, so you don't feel that reporting your sightings might help other people that saw the same thing at the same time realize that they're not crazy?
Oh yeah, I mean that's one of the reasons I started my own page on Facebook. It's the Real Story page, so that every sighting I get, I put on there. Then if anybody else does see anything, then they can come back to me with that. That's
But
what happened.
if they don't get to you and they're looking at, like I said before, Peter Davenport's New Fork reporting center, then, I mean, wouldn't you want to cast as wide a net as possible?
I would say, retrospectively, yes, you're right.
I mean, it's never too late to report the sighting, especially as well documented as you've got it.
Yeah, I write everything down. I've got them all. I know what direction and all, compass bearings, everything.
Yeah, I would think you would want to share it with everyone and anyone you could.
Yeah.
Now, let me move on here a little bit. This is you at the Outer Limits Magazine conference, right?
Yep, that's right.
And what happened there? How did that go?
That was a good weekend. That was my first time speaking out in public, and because what I tend to do with the book that I've written, what I've said is that people, and there's no detriment to people, but they tend to do like maybe the Pascagoula incident or Roswell or Decmont Woods and Pentridge incident more recently, Phoenix Lights, and people tend to do like you mentioned earlier, somebody doing Bigfoot or poltergeist and ghost hunting, and people tend to just do their piece of the pie. And one of the things that I tried to do with my book is say, look, it's not just that part of it, they are all linked, and it's the link with the electromagnetic spectrum. Everything is part of it. And one of the things that people, and this is true of cryptids, it's true of UFOs, it's true of the paranormal, when people get that that initial witnessing to whatever it is they are, they often have complete silence. They'll say there was no birds in the trees, there was no wind, there was no background hum of traffic.
The Oz effect.
Yeah, and that Oz effect to me is because you have entered their frequency. You suddenly moved out of our bit you've moved out of our plane, out of our dimension, onto the next one. And because of that, you're not within our normal acoustic range, so there won't be any sound.
Speaking of sound, you're getting a little crackly again.
Oh, I am. I'll go
I know
back.
It's an ongoing issue.
Yeah. I thought we were doing good for a while there.
It's better when you're close up to the mic like that, but it's still scratchy.
Okay, no problem. I'll go back to the mic. The other thing that people often will say is that they experience feelings of dread and feelings of absolute terror. Now you will get that in, there you go. I'll try it like,
good.
See if it's any better.
That's much better, thanks.
Oh, that's good. Yeah, so whether it's cryptids or whether it's UFOs or even somebody seeing what they would say is a ghost, is you get people that say, I was absolutely terrified. And I often think, again, it's because you've entered that bubble, if you like, and because you've entered that bubble of a different magnetic field, your soul, that's a magnetic field, you're a psychic or a spiritualist, call it your aura.
Or the bioelectric field.
Yeah. Everybody has it. I mean, if you meet somebody straight away, if you're going to get on with them or not. If you're on the same wavelength. That's a common thing.
It's interesting. Just as a side note,
Yeah.
often earlier in my life, when I would meet someone that would eventually become a very good friend, sometimes I was just put off by them. Like I was getting really negative and later I realized mixed signals, because I'm a sensitive, also, and it's just really strange. Have you ever encountered that where the first time you meet someone, you're just really, alarm
Yeah.
bells go off, and then they end up being a good friend?
Yeah. You're getting the wrong vibes.
Yeah.
But this is how we work, and this is how we work on a subconscious level, that everything's on a magnetic spectrum, and we don't realize it because that's not what we can see, that's not what we're used to dealing with, even though it's a subconscious thing and it happens around us all the time. And this is what happens with people when they're seeing a ghost, when they're seeing a cryptid, Bigfoot, when they're seeing a UFO. Some of them, or a lot of them, get that absolute silence, but some of them, they get this absolute terror as well,
Hmm.
where they say I was scared to death. And a lot, it will affect some people so much that they won't go back to the scene
Right.
because it bothers them, because
Yeah.
it's that.
Others seem to be calmed after that terror if they have, a humanoid encounter.
Yeah.
They seem to be made to be calm by ET or whatever you want to call it.
Yeah. So I think it's that there's a lot of things where the UFOs, the cryptids, and the paranormal, they all can be explained by the different types of vibration, the different types of fields reacting with each other, if that makes sense.
It does.
Yeah.
And I mentioned I was going to jump around a little bit. We're already into our second hour, which is typically when we have questions from the audience. But I wanted to touch on this and let us know what what your involvement was with the interdimensional connection,
Yeah.
and also where we can find it, to rent it.
Okay, well, there you go. It says underneath there, available on iTunes, Apple TV, Amazon Prime, Google Play, Microsoft. It was done. Initially, we had two documentaries that I was involved with. The first one was the Pentagon UFO files, and yeah, there you go. And there was a lot of UFO investigators on with that one, and
And it says, see the trailer here. Do you have a link that you can put into the private chat, and I'll put it into the regular chat?
I don't think I do actually, but can I just say, if anybody goes on, you can just put that into YouTube and it'll come up.
So it's free to watch on YouTube.
The trailer is.
Oh, okay.
But then
And so this was you and Jason and Philip Mantle and Malcolm Robinson, who wrote the introduction to your book.
Yeah.
And Philip, I'm going to murder his last name.
Philip Mantle, I can't. Oh, Philip Kinsella.
And Ronald Kinsella, yeah.
The twins, yeah.
So can you give us an idea about what the documentary is about and what your involvement was?
Yeah. Well, this one was, they were getting people's and UFO investigators' views on the release of the videos when they released Go Fast and Tic Tac and Gimbal, and it was the Pentagon UFO files. Now, this is more of a broad spectrum documentary where we all gave our views and we all had little snippets on, and it's quite good and gives an overview of it.
And was this something that Philip Mantle put together?
Yeah, he was, I believe, one of the instigators of it. And Philip asked several of us, would you be involved? Would you mind going for filming? So that's what we did. And that documentary came out first. It lasts about an hour. And then on from that, the production team
obviously thought there was more to the Kinsella brothers and myself. So that's when we went on to the first slide that you showed that said the interdimensional connection. There you go.
Mhm.
And again, that's basically Philip
Oh,
and
I apologize for interrupting. Your audio is getting crackly again.
it's okay, I don't mind. We'll keep changing and we'll get there.
Yeah.
But what happened was when they'd done the first documentary, they were obviously
Better sound.
Oh, all right, I'll leave it alone.
Oh,
when
now
we'd
you're
done the
crackly
first-
again.
Oh,
Sorry.
okay. When we did the first documentary, there was a lot more on about, lot more information, I should say, that was available on a different, what can we say, more in-depth things that more people would probably enjoy. More ufologists and people that are of that genre. So they got Philip and Ronald, who were abductees, and their experiences, and then my sort of explanation of what happened. And what they did was they edited it so that it made like a proper story out of it. And it's quite good as the interdimensional connect. For anybody who, I'm not saying by any stretch of the imagination, I'm not an expert, I don't have all the answers, and I may be completely
You
wrong.
don't?
But I have to say, as a Yorkshireman, I think I'm right, and I think I'm on the right lines, because it is logical and it does explain things. It's like, just for one thing, for example, that we get quite a lot of, is people seeing flashes in the sky.
Mm-hmm.
And I've been on a lot of sky watches, and I was actually with Paul Sinclair and Chris Evers, and there was a few of us at Bempton Cliffs doing a sky watch, and Chris Evers was interviewing Paul Sinclair for the Outer Limits magazine, and they were being interviewed, and in the middle of the interviews, I'm sure if you could listen to it properly, you'd hear in the background quite a few of us going ooh and oh as we were seeing these flashes in the sky.
Mm-hmm.
Now, everybody, I know there are medical reasons when people do see flashes that aren't really there, but when you're in groups and there's 4, 5, 6, 7 people and you all see it, well then it's an obvious it's a real thing.
Not a hallucination or swamp gas or any of that stuff.
Yeah. So for me, that sort of thing, when you've got several people that all witness the flash at the same time, for me, it's a corroborative way of proving that people can see ET, if you like, a UFO moving through the spectrums. So you just see the flash as it moves through the visible part of what we can see, but you don't see it because you can't see.
That brings up another question that I had for you, talking about the Tic Tac and Go Fast and Gimbal. What is your take on the 2004 footage of the Tic Tac that leaked out, that was released by the New York Times, among others, in 2017? It doesn't seem like anybody cared or even noticed.
Yeah. To me, it goes back to the disclosure thing. And you're getting this trick, since I think it's really from about the early 50s. It started in the late 40s after the war, and you've got to think of the culture at the time was, we'd just finished the World War.
Everyone had war nerves.
Yeah. And then all of a sudden, for any military, any government to admit that they couldn't control their own airspace, that these things were coming and going and they couldn't do a damn thing about it, they were going to do anything they could to stop that getting out. And I think really 1952 and the sightings over Washington DC really sort of put the lid on it. Then it was like, from then on it was like, right, we've really got to put a lid on this, control it, debunk it, and aggressively.
In 1952, the Air Force had a mandate to shoot them down
Yeah.
And most of the pilots that got aggressive or moved to get their weapons or even maybe fired never came back.
Mm. There's lots of instances of not only not coming back, but just not working.
Yeah. I personally think that has a lot to do with either the propulsion systems of UFOs, or it might be a temporal thing, because it seems like there are a lot of witnesses that have seen UFOs, and like in one case, a hunter has a shotgun and he's running with his dog, and he notices that his dog is very slowly moving or not moving at all. And I think that the reason that UFOs power fail cities, cars, all that kind of thing has to do with either the propulsion, the anti-gravity, or what I think is more likely is the field that envelops the craft has some sort of temporal effect on the local relativity, if you will.
Okay, Cardinal, I may be able to help you on that. I have a theory on that one.
All right.
So, going back to the electromagnetic spectrum, dead simple. EEGs, electroencephalography, where you can look at the brain patterns and everything else, it's still an energy. Your thought, every thought that you have is an energy.
Absolutely.
So, if ET is 1,000 years, 10,000 years in front of us, not only can they control the normal energy around us, they're able to completely understand it and manipulate it. And therefore, anything that happens, every thought that you have, everything the man looking down at his dog, everything the pilot thinking, I've got to go to shoot this thing down, or going back to the Nimitz encounters with Tic Tac and Frege, one of the things that he said was we went out to the RV point and it was sat there waiting for us, because it can read the minds, it can read the thoughts. It's an energy. So if it's an energy, they can read it, they know about it.
It returns to their cap point, which was only known to the pilots and a couple of people, I think, on the Nimitz.
Yeah, exactly. But if you think about it logically, because everything's energy, that is why you get abductees that don't remember, or they'll have more, shall I say, is that a kindness that ET does, where they don't let them remember.
Yeah.
Or they substitute other memories, more familial.
I'm not sure if it's kindness so much as a screen memory, so they won't get caught.
Yeah. But
and also, I wanted to mention, Paul, you're getting a little scratchy again.
Oh, right. I'll keep changing.
Just one of these ongoing things.
I know. Sorry, guys.
That's the way it goes. And you've done a lot of these, right? This is by no means your first interview.
Oh no, I don't know. I must have done about 40 now.
Yeah, I actually tried to get you on about a year ago, and we just had some communications problems, I think.
Oh, okay.
Okay, give that a shot.
Okay, we'll try that.
Talk to me.
Okay, I'll talk all night. So
it's still a little scratchy, but I think we can work with it.
Okay. So if ET can control and manipulate and do all this, that is why they can do what they do. That's why abductees remember as little as they do. That's why they can substitute other memories, like people seeing owls, more familial things and more screen memories, as you say. And that would also explain why, if you think about it from a physical point of view, abductees will say they were taken out through the ceiling, or they were taken out through the door but were closed, or taken out through a window or a wall. And that's exactly the same mechanism. You're just tuning one thing into another thing, and that way it's you're just not where you're meant to be. You are being controlled. So, yeah, so going back to how I started with the book was,
Mhm.
again, it was lifetime experiences and just trying to put them, for me, in a layman's language. Because one of the things that you tend to get is, yes, you get people that will just deal with one instance, but you will also get people who try to, I'm not going to say blind people with science, but they do.
I love that song.
Yeah, but we've all been there. We've all picked a book up, and it gets a bit heavy going, and it's like, oh, I'll come back to that when I can concentrate on it. And I didn't want that. I wanted something that anybody can pick up and read and understand, and it's sort of ufology in layman's terms, if you like.
That reminds me of another question I was going to ask you. Who are the authors in ufology that you think are important to readers interested in the subject that you would recommend?
Yeah, right. I would always recommend experiences, people that have experienced things, because I believe there are different races of ET, and people do experience and remember things differently. And as time changes over the years, we've all had or all read different experiences, different abduction accounts, different types of aircraft. We go through, I'm saying aircraft, that's the wrong thing really, different type of craft where it was always, what can I say, cigar-shaped motherships and the hockey puck type Adamski era and that, and then we've moved, and now it's more triangles, black triangles, and I think things evolve, and I
And
don't
now
necessarily,
Tic Tacs.
yeah, and I don't think it's necessarily changed really from day one, from 1900 to 2100. It's not going to change. It's the interpretation of the time, and if you look at it, look at the bigger picture again, all experiences are still the same. Nothing's changed. So it is a big subject, and the problem is because we've had this debunking and ridiculing policy from well for the last 70, 75, 80 years, that is, unless you experience it, one thing that I say to people is, unless you've experienced it yourself, you don't know. And one thing that I always say as well, when you do see a UFO, you know it's a UFO. You seem to have that connection. The video that I tried to send to you, I saw that in 2017, and that was the weirdest thing because it was the early hours of the morning. There was no air traffic, no anything. I didn't have the part of my job at the time was in the manager's hub for the ambulance service. So we knew when the helicopter was working or whether it had been put to bed, the police helicopter. So you know what's around. And then obviously you've got flight radar looking at normal aircraft. So I'd been out for a walk because otherwise you were sat, there were 12-hour shifts and you were sat down for 12 hours. So every time you got a break, I'd make a point of going out for a walk, whether it was the middle of the night or the middle of the day, just to get some exercise. So I'd been for a walk, coming back. There's still a lot, you're in a big industrial estate where I work, so there's a lot of background light pollution. So you could only really see the brighter magnitude stars and planets, and that was about it. But this light came out of a cloud, very low down, and it got brighter, and I thought it was an aircraft. And then, as you can see in where we are, we're on the flight path coming into Leeds Bradford Airport. So I just thought it was strange, something coming in at that time in the morning, but it did happen occasionally. But then when it came out and it didn't move, it would just appeared to be stationary. So I knew it wasn't our helicopters. There was nothing on the flight radar. So it was like, and I think quite by, as a sort of, just as a reaction, I got my phone out and started videoing. Now I videoed this for 18 seconds and it didn't move. It was perfectly still for 18 seconds. I mean, it does move about on the video, but that's me moving, not that. And then I put my phone down to look at it, to try and study and see what was happening. And as I did that, it literally just moved sideways and went back into the cloud. And it was the immediate feeling that I got was it allowed me to video it, and then it went off again. And I know that sounds bizarre, but
No, actually, it doesn't. There does seem to
Yeah.
be a performative element. I've had sightings that, you know, upon reflection, were just utterly absurd.
yeah,
It's almost like they're putting on a, you know, a show for you.
yeah, it was
And
like that.
then
I
they
felt
hide in
it
weird
me.
ways, you know, so that you
Yeah,
can only see them infrared and things like that. It doesn't make a lot of sense.
yeah. But that was the immediate feeling I got was it allowed me to video it, and then it went. But again, the opposite to this. In 2015, the first time I was with my wife and she saw something. One of the neighbours, a younger family, and they just had a baby boy. So they came round and we'd got other neighbours in. So there were 5 adults sat having a cup of tea in my back garden, cooing over this baby boy, right? This is like 3 o'clock in the afternoon. The baby boy had got an older brother, 2-3 years old. So I'm trying to entertain him so that the ladies could stay with the baby. We laid on a like a picnic mat on the grass on the lawn, looking up at the sky, looking at bird, aeroplane, like the little children do.
Hmm.
As we're doing that, I see this flash of light between the houses. And when I looked at it, it was literally just like the glitter ball of Strictly Come Dancing. And it was like, whoa, look at this. So I immediately jumped up, went to the side of the house so that I could see that it wasn't moving, that it was stationary. So I'm saying, my wife's there with this baby on her knee, and I'm like, inside my brain's going, what the hell are you doing? Get your body here to me now, you know. And you're trying to say, just come here and look at this. And it's like, and you're screaming, saying, come and look at this. And it just stayed there for maybe 10 minutes. And
Wow.
all of us saw it, and it moved really, really slowly towards us, and then moved off to the west, and then it just faded into the distance. But the reason I'm telling you this one is 5 adults and 2 small children, but 5 adults saw this. With us, we had 5 mobile phones, 5 cell phones, and 2 tablets, and nobody thought to take a photograph.
Hmm.
And again, is this thought projection, this control that they can do that we don't, to us is as bizarre and as odd and whatever, but to them can be quite normal and a way of controlling things that, yes, they wanted to say we're here, but we never thought of taking a picture or anything until after the event.
I do have a video here that I'd like to share and have you tell us a little bit about it. I think it is, where is it? Here it is. Nope. Where are you? Okay, I think that's it. So let's see what we can see here. And you can walk us through it.
Well, you should be able to see something. Well, I can't see much on there actually.
I see it on my monitor, but I don't
Oh.
see it
Yeah,
in the
I just wondered if you were
try
zoomed in.
that again.
It was just if you were zoomed in on the picture and you were just seeing a part of it rather than.
Yeah, it's just a little white blinking light that
Yeah,
goes into a couple different colors.
yeah,
And then it's done. It doesn't seem like it's you know, a
playing
UFO in the sense of you know, zipping off at incredible speed or anything. Just a light in the sky. It
Yeah.
could be anything, right?
Yeah, that's exactly what I said at the time. It
Yeah.
came out of the cloud, it just hovered there, didn't move, and then went back in. And again, there were no apparent strobes, there was no other movement, no noise, no anything. Uh, and as I said, it was weird because as soon as I stopped filming, as soon as I stopped, it's an 18-second video.
Mhm.
And as soon as I stopped, it just went sideways. It went back in the cloud and I didn't see it again. And it was like,
Oh, so after you turned it off, it
yeah,
displayed more flight characteristics.
yeah. It was, I turned the phone off and put it down so that I could look at it properly.
Right.
And literally, as I did that, within 3 or 4 seconds, it just moved slowly sideways back into the cloud and
Hmm.
never saw it
Unlike
again.
any aircraft you've ever seen.
No.
Yeah. Okay. We have about half an hour left. So I want to go into sort of a rapid fire mode, if that's all right with you.
Sure.
I'll ask you some questions and you can give us some brief answers, maybe.
Just
Why do you think it is that we never have any decent pictures of UFOs?
I believe it's the electromagnetic spectrum, and because they're not completely in our visible spectrum. So even if you look at the videos which we got that were released, Tic Tac, Gimbal, and Go Fast, they're slightly out of focus, they're fuzzy, they're not clear. And that's because I believe they're not completely within our spectrum. They're not completely within our electromagnetic spectrum. They could be on the one above or the one below. So we're only seeing that portion of it. And that's why
Would you say that the same thing is true of abduction? That it seems like people can be abducted from any location.
Yep. But if you think about it, if we are all individuals, we all have our own frequency. We're all at different levels of learning.
Sure.
So we're all going to be an individual. So for them, it's just like tuning into an old radio station where you used to twiddle the knob and you'd get the radio channel that you wanted to listen to, wherever it was. And for them, it's exactly the same. And because they're masters at this and they understand it and can manipulate it, they can tune straight into that. They know what that frequency is. So they can tune. It's like, wow, they went back to Whitley Strieber. How Calvin Parker, right, Calvin and Charlie Hickson from the 1973 Pascagoula incident.
Yeah, we've discussed that with Philip and with Jason, and
Yeah.
it's one of the, I think, highest profile abductions of all
Oh, yeah.
time.
Well, just the reason I mentioned it was that Calvin only naturally remembers that one thing. But when he went through regression with Kath afterwards, Kath Marden, he'd actually been abducted on 4 occasions. But that was the only one that he could naturally remember. And again, it goes back to being able to control your thoughts, control your memories, because they're all energy.
Right. What is your take on the 2004 footage of the Tic Tac, Go Fast, Gimbal? When it was reported by Politico and the New York Times in 2017 in December, like I said before, it didn't seem like anybody really cared. My personal feeling is that there are a lot of people out there that say, including some of the people that were in Congress that got the classified briefing rather than the public one, which was, I think, 17 pages. The classified one was like 117 pages. Why do you think it is that the military is, specifically the Navy, is interested in this to the degree that they're, you know, giving out information, and they're not doing anything other than the military sightings, specifically the Navy. A lot of people think that these Tic Tacs and other UFOs and things are man-made, and that some parts of our government are, you know, basically just fucking with the Navy when they're out on, you know, war games and maneuvers and things like that. For some reason, to me, that you know, Tic Tac stuff with the Navy seems like it's only focused on the military, and for that reason, I'm dubious. What about you?
Yeah, I agree that the you've got to go again. It's back to a cultural thing where the military have been in complete control of it, of what we're allowed to remember. Going right back in time, going back to Project Blue Book, Project Sign, Project Grudge, all those, we only get to know what they want us to know. And I think it's becoming more difficult, more up to date now, where everybody, and I mean everybody, has a means to record something and put it straight on the internet. And because of that, it's becoming much more difficult for them to cover it up. And because it's becoming much more difficult for them to cover it up, I think we're getting this slow disclosure. And it's the same even from the mainstream media, film and television, everything. You're getting this where, I'm going to use the coverall phrase again, ET, is gradually being moved up in our consciousness, if you like, so that it becomes an acceptable thing before we reach that threshold where once they do start giving us more videos, more films and more acknowledgement that this is happening, it becomes more acceptable. And it's not suddenly dropped on you and everybody goes, whoa, you know. It'll be, oh yeah, we've known about that for years, you know.
Right. And then they can make some sort of a statement about, as you said, ET is here. You know, we don't seem to be able to communicate with them or their craft, but they don't seem to be, well, it used to be that they said UFOs are not a threat to national security, which was absolute bullshit.
Yeah.
And they're kind of doing the same thing now, even though the Navy and the Pentagon released and the DoD released those not very impressive videos, but yet the cover up continues. Why do you think that is?
Yeah, I think again that's because they can't let the cat out of the bag all in one go, and it's an educating the public. They've got to do it by a drip feed. They've got to do it slowly. They've got to get people used to it. And
so
again,
that people won't panic.
Yeah. Again, I think it's a generational thing. Had they released those videos in the 1950s, it'd have been like, whoa, you know, because people weren't used to it and because of the war and all the rest of
War
it.
jitters, yeah.
Yeah. But now because of the internet connecting around the whole world, the films and television and everything, where we've got that slow leak, if you like, to get people used to there is ET around us all the time.
Yeah, I like the way that you refer to it as that slow drip feed.
Yeah.
But we've been getting that for 80 years.
Yeah.
So do you think that they're speeding that up, or that they realize that we can, you know, do this in chunks? We can
Yeah.
say, oh, okay, so the UAP are real, but they always stop short of saying it's not from this planet. You know, it could be Chinese, it could be Russian, could be elements of our own government. None of that, you know, does anything for me.
That's the other thing as well. Playing devil's advocate is how much technology, or even reverse technology, some people would say, have we actually got that we don't know about? And again, as I said earlier, when people do see something, when I saw those two UFOs that came out of that cloud, for me, it was so obvious that it was something alien, for want of a better word. There was nothing that we'd got that could do anything that did. And for me, I wanted to know, from the physics point of view, how could something look like that? How could something move like that? How could it look like it? How come I don't know about it? Why isn't it on the news,
Right.
Why isn't it in the newspapers? So, but
Did you ever receive the monthly UFO, what was it, newsletter, where it was just filled with clippings on both sides of each page, with local and regional, newspaper accounts of abductions, sightings, all that kind of stuff?
personally, no. Going way back on my introduction to it, I'm talking the late 60s, and my uncle gave me a book then. It used to come out, an annual book, and it was the Flying Saucer Review.
Mm.
And you used to get that, and they had an annual publication. So I actually had one of those, which my uncle gave me. See, that was another thing, was at that time as a teenager, being introduced to UFO groups, because obviously I couldn't drive then. There was no internet, so you had to get off and get into your libraries. Your local libraries didn't have books on UFOs.
Mm-hmm.
You had to really search them out and find. Then the early ones were like Donald Kehoe, Jenny Randalls, and the Carl Sagan, even when he started writing then. And it was looking at the books that started it all off, if you like.
Paul, what are among your favorite cases, and why did you choose the ones in the book as opposed to others you may have cut and realize I'm just going from the first edition? I don't have the third one yet.
Yeah, it's okay. It's exactly the same. The ones I've put in the book are my experiences and my sightings, but I also touch on a few others, because I think to go back to what we were saying earlier, where different people experience different things and different people want to write about the Pascagoula incident or the Decamont Woods incident, or it's, for me, there's nothing wrong with that, and it's all good information, and it's all good investigative work that we need. But for me, it's I wanted to know the other side of the coin and the other parts of the puzzle, and so that's why I try to sort of tie things in together. So there's a bit of background to it. There's a bit of what can I say? My theories in there. There's also my sightings in there, but there's it also touches on other sightings and investigative work that other people have done too.
Who are the authors in ufology that you think are important to readers interested in this subject, whether they're beginning or intermediate, maybe as well as authors, maybe specific books that you would recommend for someone to have in their UFO library?
Yeah. Well, if you're into just the sightings themselves, then
No, all of it.
well, all of it. Well, I'm just as an example for the sightings themselves, something like Philip Mantle's book on UK landings,
Mm-hmm.
which he's just brought out, which in essence gives you an ABC, almost bullet points of sightings over the years, and there are a whole plethora of different experiences and what people have seen and done and experienced. But then also you get the other side of the coin, where you get people like Philip Kinsella, Kath Marden, that go into a lot more depth on their specific field. And
we just had Kathleen Marden on the show 2 weeks ago.
Yeah, fabulous. And it for me. I mean, I was very fortunate when I was working with Bufora. On one occasion, I happened to be. I got Bud Hopkins on my own for lunch, so you'll be able to talk to him, you know. But like Bud Hopkins, Dolores Cannon, Kathleen Marden, wonderful people to get their take on it. I know Bud Hopkins had a sighting, but for me, they were people that came from the outside into ufology because of the work that they did.
Yeah.
And Bud said to me, he said, Paul, he says, when different people from all different backgrounds and all different educational events, all different geographical locations, he says they never would meet each other in real life. But when I see them and they're all telling me exactly the same story, then there's got to be something to it. It can't be just a figment of their imagination, you know.
Yeah. If it is a situation of mass hysteria or what's the other phrase they use?
Yeah, it's all,
Multiple sighting is
yeah, it's all, then they start bringing in psychosis and these other things. And
and this group hallucination type thing, which, if it's true, deserves study all by itself.
yeah, there's all sorts of things. I mean, we are getting better as a human race. We are learning more, but one of the things which science should always be questioned and science should always be pushed, because it's always going to evolve and it's always going to be correct until something else corrects it, you know, if that makes sense.
Oh, sure. Absolutely. We're getting close to when we're going to put up our spinner wheel. Again, anyone in the chat, if you have questions for Paul about his sightings, his book, his experience, fire away. And while we're waiting for that, you mentioned Whitley Strieber before. What authors do you think are really important for people to read? I remember that you answered before with experiencers, abductees, that kind of thing. But what about authors like, for instance, Jacques Vallée, J. Allen Hynek, those kind of things.
Fabulous. The thing is, the more that you read, the more, I believe, you get a better picture of what's really happening, because everybody will have their own opinion. So by reading people, I mean, Jacques Vallée, Passport to Magonia, and some of his other stuff, I mean, his brain's fantastic. And to be able to introduce things that he does, to be able to think outside the box, to get you working on a different level, to bring new things in and think, oh well, yeah, that might be right, and it's all good. The more experience you get, one of the things that the better it's got to be for you. And one of the things that I always say is, and I put different quotes in my book, and one of them is that you should never believe anything, even if I say it, if you don't think it's right. It's got to resonate that it's right with you. And if it resonates that it's right, then you might be on the right track. Go with your gut feeling.
That brings up the question, what about, mass sightings? Like, I believe it was in Argentina, there was a big soccer match going on, and like 130,000 people saw a craft
Over the
sort
top
of
of the
hover
field.
and descend into the area. If that's mass hysteria, we need to study that too.
Yeah, you see, the thing is, you've got to think on the other side of the coin is that everything will have been debunked. And from an investigator's point of view,
you've got to look at what the people are saying, because people genuinely that have seen something, some of them are scared to death, you know, and it really affects their lives. And you've got to go from what they experience and not what from the Philip Glass of this world that said it was a lighthouse shining through the trees.
Somebody
Yes,
who wasn't even there debunks it. Yeah.
yeah. I mean, we
It's
know, we
crazy.
all know the lighthouse shone through the trees, but again, you've got to look at it from,
The lighthouse doesn't go that way.
yeah, but also the other point is that from anybody on the outside, on the periphery that isn't involved and didn't experience it, it does seem a sort of plausible explanation. So yeah, we'll go along with that. That's what happened.
Sure. And I'm as skeptical as the next guy, but you know, there's a difference between skeptics and debunkers, and Phil Glass was certainly a debunker.
Yeah, I mean, another one that's obvious to anybody with half a brain that served in the military is exercise flares on the Phoenix Lights.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's
Unfortunately, the story is they dropped those flares like an hour and a half after the actual craft blackened out the stars,
the
so
sky.
people couldn't even see stars.
Yeah. So, but again, for people that don't know, it's difficult to, because you weren't there. You've only got to go on what people say. So it is a very subjective. It's a very subjective subject, really, because unless you experience something yourself and you haven't actually seen anything yourself, it's a big leap of faith to make that jump.
Yeah. What like documentaries for UFOs would you recommend for people that are interested in the topic, whether they know a little or a little more? Which ones, other than the ones that you've been involved with, stand out to you?
Yeah. Again, this is something else that you've got to think on the context and the culture of the mainstream media at the moment is, yes, they'll show you something and then they'll always put a little snippet at the end that casts that little doubt. If you weren't there and you don't know.
It's the ridicule portion. Yeah.
Yeah. So you'll always get that. So I just watch anything. I mean,
like for instance, James Fox always seems to put out great documentaries.
love James, yeah, fabulous guy. But there's a lot of them on now where people, the television programs. I mean, at the moment that's current in the UK, we've got Blaze TV, and they're doing a whole week of UFO evenings. So from 8 o'clock till like 3 o'clock in the morning, I could put the TV on now, and it may still be on, you know. And they're showing you different documentaries. I mean, yes, some of them are quite old, but again, you get the factual part of it, you get the witness part of it and their statements, any other evidence that they may have, and then you get this debunking portion at the end of it. But what if it was just weather? If it just was military? If it just was whatever it was? So it's not that I don't think there's anything specific. Yes, James Fox is a great guy, love him, but yeah, anything, because it all adds fuel to the fire. So, and something else you may have noticed as well is how much more, how many more documentaries we're getting now, and how much more is appearing on television.
Speaking of which, where can we find more about you, your work, the documentaries and other things that you've been involved with, and how can people get in touch with you?
Yeah, they can, everything that the documentaries, my sightings, they can all get in touch with me. There's the It's the Real Story page on Facebook. And I just put things on there, really. So anything I get, anything of interest, meetings and things that are coming up, conferences that are coming up, things that I've been involved with will all go on there. So I don't really, because I'm not in Bufora anymore.
Does Bufora still exist?
That's a good question. I don't honestly know. Having been with them for quite a few years.
When did you retire from Bufora?
I think I left in the late 90s.
Oh, okay. And how long had you been a member?
I think I've been a member about 10 years.
Mhm.
And I was very fortunate that I wanted to investigate them anyway. And I was Philip, and there were a few other people as well. Heather Dixon was another one, and they sort of encouraged me to go into the investigative side of it. So I did do a few investigations for Bufora, but it was, again, like a lot of things, some wonderful people in there, and they do some good work. MUFON will be exactly the same. You will get people that do the work and people that won't, and people that do, but it's still a good organisation. It's still nice that there's that there.
MUFON in particular seems to have a pretty serious training regimen before people can become investigators.
Yeah, and
I know, for instance, that there's a test.
Yeah, I agree with it completely, because you will get people, otherwise you are going to get people that do believe and people that don't believe. So you're going to get their bias to their conclusions, if you like.
And that's going to happen with everybody, basically.
Oh, yeah.
Everyone has a confirmation bias of one kind or another,
Yeah.
whether we like to admit it or not.
Yeah.
And so is there a central location where people can find out more about the stuff that you do?
There's not really. I get involved with like the Outer Limits magazine. I'll go to their conferences every year. We have the Awakening conference every year. Obviously, it's a bit more difficult for us on this side of the pond because it's so much bigger where you guys are in the States, and there's so much more going on.
I did want to also ask you this. What's your personal opinion about the Rendlesham Forest encounter? Do you believe that was ET, or the Americans messing with themselves, or
in my opinion, it was definitely ET.
Yeah.
And tried to cover it up. And the problem again with Rendlesham Forest is you get the Larry Warrens of this world that tried to muddy the waters and all the rest of it.
Yeah.
But in my opinion, I mean, they got Colonel Holt came over to the Outer Limits magazine conference one of the years, and when I
met him, he did a UFO symposium here in Lawrence in 2011.
Yeah, but when you get the people there that were there and get their opinion, so for me, yes, it was a real incident. And if you think about it again, going back to what I've been talking about, really, everything's energy. So they can use the energy, they can turn them off, they can do whatever they want, and we couldn't do anything about it.
Okay, I am just looking to see if we have a mod that can bring the spinner wheel up for us. Let me take a look here. And I just did want to thank you again, Paul, for coming on Into the Fringe, talking about your book and your experiences. I don't know where the time has gone, but it's been a lot of fun.
Thank you very much. It's been lovely.
Yeah, we'll have to have you on again soon. Yeah. And I want to go ahead and bring on the one and the only Canadian Spider-Man. Hey,
Hello. Hi.
how you doing?
Cardinal. I'm doing great. Can you hear me?
Yeah,
Perfect. And Paul, thank you so much for being here. You've talked about something that I don't hear very many people talking about, and your insights. It's just a pleasure to hear you, and thank you for your time and being here.
Thank you.
I agree. I'll second that motion.
Now, Cardinal Sin, I can't take credit. Antidirt of Jill did the spinner wheel, and I'm happy to.
Thank
to
you,
spin it
Jill.
for you. Yeah, she does all the spinner work. So I'll share that with you now if you like.
Great. It's time to spin up. Now, Paul, I'm going to warn you in advance. This is the part of the show that I look forward to it, but it makes me a little queasy because the spinner wheel has my face in the middle, and it makes me feel like The Exorcist when it spins around. You know, I get a little nauseous. So it looks like we have a lot of good folks on the wheel today. So again, we are giving away a copy of UFOs The Real Story, and that'll be autographed for our lucky weekly winner. So please go ahead and give that wheel a spin.
Yes, sir.
Congratulations, Radioactive. You
That's
can't
brilliant.
win if you don't play, right? So what I will do is put my email into the chat, and I just need Radioactive to send me an email with his mailing address, and then I can pass that on to Paul, who will autograph the book for you and send it on your way.
Yep.
So
That'll be
yes,
good.
congrats. Good deal.
Congratulations.
any-
That's fantastic.
Yeah. Any last thoughts from either of you?
Well, I'd just like to say that the book that you'll be getting, Radioactive, is the new version that's coming out on June the 1st. So you'll get it before anybody else.
And how long will it take, do you think, for Radioactive to receive it? Will it be June?
Oh no, it'll be before then because I have the finished book. So it'll be.
Oh, okay, good.
It will be in the post tomorrow.
Awesome. Super awesome. Well, thank you very much. Phantom Boomer mentions that he is extremely behind in his reading. All right. Canadian Spider-Man, do you have any have you heard anything in the area where you are in Mexico about UFOs? Has anybody told you anything? Have you heard any stories?
I haven't heard any UFO stories. No. However, some Bigfoot type stories in the surrounding hillsides, yes. But
Really?
but not as far as any UFOs. No, not around here. Now, if I spend more time on the Yucatan Peninsula, I bet you there's some people there that would have some things to say.
Yeah.
But
Do
I am, no.
Do you think you'll be going back to the Yucatan Peninsula?
Oh, absolutely. The cenote diving was fantastic, and there's so many stories. There's a concentration of archaeological sites there. So there's all kinds of energy that's unique to the Yucatan. So yeah, definitely. Hopefully next year.
Cool. Well,
Anyway, I'll let the two experts finish up.
put your investigator hat on when you're down there, so that we can figure out a little bit more about what's going on to the south of us.
Hmm.
Um,
I'll do some videos, some interview
yeah,
videos.
that'd be
Absolutely.
great. Philip
You
Blair
can,
says,
yeah.
Bigfoot, do tell. Do you have any more than that to say about the Bigfoot sightings in the area?
No, just that there's a lot of thick jungle just within, less than an
Bush,
hour's
as they
drive.
call it. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's not surprising that there's not a lot of people that go through those. So, yeah. Apparently, he speaks Spanish.
Yeah. Since you've been in Mexico, apart from the 10 days that you went back, have you ever had a weird feeling like, I wonder if I left the gas on?
No, can't say I have. No.
Is your brother
Yeah.
holding down the fort there?
He is, yeah. And
Okay.
yeah, my roommate as well. So, no, so far, fingers crossed, everything back home is good. Yeah, I'll find out in 2 weeks.
Cool.
Yeah, and then I'll be listening live from Canada again with
I
reliable
do
internet.
want to mention to everybody that I have a Patreon page, patreon.com/Gil Bavell. And there's all kinds of sweet incentives and rewards there. So please go check it out, see what you think. And of course, yes, Canadian Spider-Man is reminding me to let people know about gilstore.org, not com, where you can get all kinds of cool shirts. Mods can get a Mod Squad t-shirt like that. But there's lots of other stuff that we watched a little clip, Paul, earlier while you were, going in and out and trying to get the sound better of some of the merch that's available there. So once again, I'd like to thank you both. And Paul, look very much forward to your return. And until then, it's Cardinal Sin out.